They're not disgusted at Boris Johnson and the politicians. They're disgusted at themselves. So you all know what I'm talking about here, and we know what the media are trying to do at the moment. It's so obvious, and I'm pretty angry, I'll be honest with you, because I'm going to predict what's going to happen next. I said a while back, the public figures, celebrities, the media class and politicians were going to be like rats deserting a sinking ship. But the word rat is not a befitting description for these people. They are going to try and dissociate themselves from the despicable evil that has poisoned the world in the last couple of years. It's already happening, as anybody who's paying attention will be able to see, as more and more and more eyes start to see the lies. But this video isn't really about these scumbags, and I know what I do with them. It's not about those scumbags. This video is about members of the general public, you know, the individuals who form the society that we currently have. For anybody to be more angry at the fact that not just 1, 2, 3, countless parties were held during that first lockdown by politicians and civil servants, for people to be more angry that that happened than the actual lockdown and associated measures, for me, demonstrates more clearly than anything else how morally corrupt sections of this society have become. Just imagine that. Just imagine holding in contempt politicians for having a party during lockdown, i.e. breaking rules that many of us at the start said were absurd and immoral. Being more angry at that 2 years later, nearly 2 years later, than the fact that so many people allowed it to happen. They allowed the lockdown. They allowed the isolation. They allowed the removal of crucial services for truly vulnerable people, particularly children and old people. What does that say? I've used this quote before. Primo Levi, who was an Italian Jew interned at Auschwitz, in his book, If This Is a Man, please read that book if you've not. He said, "Real monsters exist, but they're too few in number to matter. The real monsters are the ordinary men and women, ready to obey without question." How true that is. We are now seeing people reacting in two different ways. I think some people are genuinely disturbed at the way their own beliefs were informed and how their own behaviours were manipulated, and their minds, how they were taken over by the state and how their hearts were turned to stone. And I'm not talking about a few people, I'm talking about the majority. And let me tell you, like so many other people at the start, I was taken in. And I thank God every day I was able to see this for what it was, and that I extricated myself from that mind control, from that fear, very, very, very early on. So some people, I can tell, I can see it, are deeply disturbed, of what they allowed to happen on their watch. And others are once again falling for the nefarious, malevolent, despicable tactics of the media to try and divert attention away from how evil those lockdowns were to the fact that Boris Johnson and his cronies were hypocrites. Yeah, they were. Here's my first point I'll make. Pretty much everybody I know was a hypocrite. Broke lockdown when it suited them. They did. If it was easy and convenient for them and they thought they could get away with it. Maybe there was a drink in it for somebody, you know, maybe you could go around someone's house, have a drink, sneaky drink, you know, go out you couldn't even go out for a fucking walk with more than one person at one point. They thought they could do that, they did it. What they didn't do though was they never questioned what they were told about this virus. They never questioned the moral case for lockdown. So they broke it if it suited them. These are the same people now who are angry at the senior civil servants, politicians, and no doubt media as well who were there. More angry that they were doing exactly the same as them. Wow. Let's just go back. Let's go back to March 2020. There were some people who woke up to it sooner than me, many of them. As I say, thank God I woke up end of March, beginning of April, to what was going on. And what did people like me, like you, because I've got the most amazing subscribers watching this, who've held the line, who've argued through a moral and intellectual prism. What was it we did? What did we say? All we said was, listen to what we've got to say. We tried to explain with logic and reason and intellect and discernment about how what we were being told was full of inconsistencies, had no logic to it, had no precedent for it, was an experiment. An experiment in what? An experiment in controlling people's minds so that people would do whatever they were asked to do, no matter what it was. And what reaction did we all get? What did we get? We got told we were crazy, we were selfish, we were lockdown idiots, we were COVID idiots, we were killing grandma. Did that stop us? No, of course it didn't. Many of us then started to feel a real visceral anger because we could see what was happening. We could see that old people were left to die alone in care homes. That old people and children were left to die alone, isolated, terrified in hospitals. We could see that crucial support such as children's services were removed. We could see small businesses were being destroyed and people were killing themselves. We could see that people who needed urgent cancer care were being denied it. We could see all these things, and we tried to tell people, we tried to show people. We didn't try to tell them, we tried to show them, and they wouldn't look. They just resorted to insults or ignoring us or laughing at us. Which of those three is worse? Probably laughing at us. These are the same people now who are trying to exonerate themselves because they know what they've allowed to happen. And this, for me, is the whole crux of why our society is in such a terrible state. Large parts of it. Because there are a lot of people who still do not take any responsibility at all for what's happened. They take no responsibility for their own actions. They have failed morally and intellectually. What planet do these people live on that they think if you give a government, any government of any political hue, at any point in time throughout history, in any country, that if you do that, that government will not become first corrupt and then murderous. What planet are they on? We all made the biggest mistake that we'll ever make in our lives on the 23rd of March 2020, but there's only some of us who realise that. And this is why we are where we are, because we live in a world that has been very, very carefully cultivated by the powers that be to imbue people with a sense that what happens in that world and what happens in that society is not on them. It's on somebody else. It's on the politicians. Or it's on, he'll sort it, she'll sort it, I don't have to do fucking anything. I don't know what is more disturbing from a moral standpoint. The fact that it was allowed to happen. People let it happen. People applauded it. People applauded it. People cheered it on. Or the fact that now they're trying to disassociate themselves from the evil that they have allowed to happen in this world. I don't know what's worse, but I think the second point is worse. Do not let people get away with this scot-free. Why do I say that? One simple reason. Because if people don't go and sit in a quiet, dark room with their own thoughts and reflect on this, on how they allowed it to happen, then it will happen again, whether in 1 or 2 generations. We're not even out of this yet. We're not even out of this war. But thank God the truth is out and people are seeing it. So here's the crucial thing. People must realise that politicians mostly are bad people. They are corrupt and their power must be limited. But it is not they that shape society. It's not the World Economic Forum. It's not the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. It's not the United Nations. And it's certainly not all of the governments across the world. It is us, it is me, it is you, it is them. Because without our consent, they are powerless. It is the individuals within that society that determine and dictate the direction of it. And the direction that we have determined and dictated is one that is dark, malevolent and wicked. I want you to share this video. I want you to share this video with everybody that you know, who you can see is already trying to absolve themselves of blame. Blame, yes, blame. Tomorrow's video, I am going to give massive credit to all of the people who have stopped in this country, in England, from what is going on in Australia, Germany, Canada, from happening in this country. That's tomorrow's video. Because we're at the point now, in this journey from tyranny to freedom, where we can say, not only the biggest I told you so, and I will say it, oh I will say it, not only that, but we could give ourselves some credit. We know, we've known since the start that we were on the right side of history. But yes, I'm angry. And there needs to be a reckoning in this world of ours. We need to encourage as many people to be brave and introspective and to acknowledge what they have done and what they have allowed to happen and how they have blood on their hands. They do. Still so many people going along with it, aren't there? And there will be some. As my friend Jim, who's been on this channel a number of times, said, if Boris Johnson came out in a press conference in a clown outfit and said, you've been had off. We lied to you from the start. there are many who still couldn't find it within themselves to admit they were wrong. And they weren't just wrong. They weren't just wrong. They were enablers of pure, unadulterated evil in this world. That's what they were. And that's on them to make peace with themselves. And anybody who is in that category and who is willing to make peace with themselves, they need our support, because they may belatedly show a degree of courage. I'll say again, as I've said many a time, I am far from perfect. I can be a bit of a bastard. I can be selfish. But something told me, something in my heart, my intuition, something deep within my soul told me I will never, ever comply just because I'm told to. To so many people, we found out morality and truth don't register. It's like they don't even exist. Doesn't matter. The truth, who cares? People are dying. People are being persecuted. Who cares? I'm doing it for the common good. I'm part of this group. We're doing the right thing. Everyone else is doing it, so it must be right. Maybe, for the first time, I would say ever, a society is going to actually learn from history. I don't hold my breath. But the only way a society learns from history is by reflecting on who they are as an individual. Is by realising, as we now know, if they were alive in the 1930s, they would have been part of one of Hitler's SS Einsatzgruppen killing squads. They would have been loading Jews onto the cattle trucks. They would have been working in a euthanasia clinic. If they were in Stalin's Russia, they would have been going out to the rural farms and rounding up the kulaks and either shooting them or putting them on cattle trucks to the gulags in Siberia. If they were in Mao's China, they would have been sticking a gun to their parents' head and shooting them. Because these people don't understand the concept of drawing a moral line in the sand. If you don't draw it early on, you'll never draw it. So let's ignore these media distraction tactics. Let's call out these disgusting, sycophantic, despicable, immoral journalists. But more than that, let's have a reckoning with ourselves. Let's realise this happened not because of them, but because of us, and that some of us carry the weight of responsibility for that. And let's hope that people can finally find it within themselves to think their own thoughts, develop their own value system, and know when to use this most crucial word in the English language. And do you know what it is? The simple word no.